There are things people carry that cannot be seen. A face can smile, a voice can sound normal, and yet something in the atmosphere changes when they walk into a room. The air feels heavier. The conversation turns without effort. You sense unrest, but cannot place your finger on it, and sometimes it is someone close, a friend you grew up with, a sibling who once prayed, a relative who used to believe. But now something is off. You feel it more than you can describe it. They reject what is sacred. They react sharply when truth is spoken. There are outbursts that have no cause. Words said that cannot be taken back. They avoid peace. They stir confusion. What once felt warm now feels like a wall. And yet they are still in your life. They are still around your table. So how do you know? How do you quietly observe and discern without jumping to judgment? This is not about paranoia. This is not about fear. This is about awareness. You need to know when something else is speaking through someone. When what you are dealing with is not only human, because some spirits hide behind familiar faces, and it is wisdom to see it. Sometimes the change is sudden, but other times it builds quietly. You begin to notice how someone reacts when they're questioned. A small disagreement turns into a storm. Their voice rises over simple matters. They slam things, they curse, they lash out with words that cut deep, not just to defend themselves, but to hurt you. It's not the kind of anger that passes and fades. It lingers. It stays in the air after they've left the room. Their reactions are not just strong, they are out of proportion. You find yourself stepping lightly around them, avoiding topics, holding your breath, hoping not to set them off, but it still happens, over and over again. And afterward, there is no real apology. Maybe a cold silence, maybe blame, but never peace. And what stands out the most is the timing. The anger shows itself when something holy is mentioned, when there's a call to prayer, when you bring up God, when you try to share something encouraging. That's when they flare. It's not just a personality trait. It's not stress. It's deeper than that. You can feel the resistance. You can sense that the rage has a source that's not natural. They fight you without cause. They provoke arguments that don't need to happen. And the words they speak, sometimes they don't sound like them at all. That's when you begin to pray in silence. That's when you keep watch. Because anger that cannot be controlled, especially when it's directed toward truth, is not just a habit. It may be a signal. Not all storms come from the weather. Some begin in the soul, and they point to something that has entered quietly but lives loudly. It starts with small comments, a joke when you mention going to church, a sarcastic remark when you share a Bible verse. At first you think they're just being casual. Maybe they're in a different place spiritually. Maybe they're just not interested, but as time goes on, the pattern grows. Every time something godly is brought up, they become uncomfortable, defensive, sometimes even angry. They roll their eyes at prayer. They avoid conversations about faith. They shift the topic when anything sacred is mentioned. And if they don't walk away, they try to shut it down. They don't want it near them. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to feel it. You notice how their tone changes around anything holy. The hate is not hidden. It spills out in their words, in their face, in their posture. They mock what they once respected. They criticize what they used to believe. And it's not just once. It happens over and over. There's a wall, and it gets higher every time you try to speak life. They call it being real. But it's not just realism. It's resistance. Deep resistance. They don't react like someone struggling with doubt. They react like someone who is offended by light, like it bothers something inside them, like it's exposing something they've made peace with. And slowly, you realize it's not about you. is not about your words, it's about what those words carry. Something in them hates what is good, what is pure, what is holy. And they can't hide it for long. That kind of hatred is not born from reason, it grows from a root. And sometimes that root is not human. Sometimes it's a spirit that has found a home and cannot stand the presence of anything that reminds it of God. You may not notice it the first time. You close your eyes to pray, and they shift uncomfortably in their seat. Maybe they sigh. Maybe they get up and leave the room, but it happens again. Every time prayer starts, they become restless. Their expression tightens. They cross their arms. They frown. They may even interrupt, not always loudly, but sharply, like something inside them cannot stay still when the atmosphere shifts. And when worship begins, whether in song or just a quiet moment of reverence, they tense up, they criticize the music, they mock the silence. They call it strange, irritating. Sometimes they speak as if they are offended by the peace itself. You try not to take it personally. You remind yourself that everyone has their own journey. But deep inside, you know what you're sensing. It's more than discomfort. It's hostility, a kind that doesn't surface in other settings, only when God is being honored, only when His name is lifted. They may not shout, but their presence becomes loud, heavy. Their words cut through the moment, and even when they are silent, you feel the resistance, like a wall pressing back against what's being built in prayer. There is something in them that fights worship. It stirs during prayer. It pushes back during quiet moments with God. It wants to disrupt. It wants to disturb. It does not want to be near that kind of presence. And you begin to wonder, why is something so good causing such a strong reaction? Why does prayer make them bitter? Why does worship seem to provoke them? Because sometimes it is not the person resisting. It is the spirit behind them. And that spirit knows what the power of true worship can do. It feels threatened, so it fights back. It doesn't always look dark at first. It can even come wrapped in concern, in advice, in what sounds like care. But slowly, the pattern becomes clear. Every choice you make is questioned. Every move you take is measured against their approval. They want you to explain yourself constantly. They make you feel unsure, even when your path is clear. They speak in circles, and somehow you always end up being the one at fault. You begin to lose your voice. You begin to question your peace. They know how to twist words. They know how to make you doubt what you heard from God. You find yourself walking on a narrow path around them, avoiding conflict, avoiding their reaction. They don't use physical chains, but their control is just as strong. Their silence punishes you. Their words corner you. Their presence becomes something you have to manage. And when you try to pull away, they say you're being ungrateful, disloyal, wrong. But deep down, you know you're being pulled into something heavy, something that doesn't feel like love. Because true love doesn't manipulate. It doesn't need control to feel secure. It doesn't press down on others to feel powerful. You see how they change when they can no longer influence your steps. Their calm turns cold. Their support turns to guilt, and their presence, once close, begins to feel like a burden. That's when you must watch closely, because not every form of control is natural. Some of it is fed by something deeper, spirits that seek to rule quietly, spirits that operate through charm, pressure, and guilt. And once they settle in, they aim to shut down your strength. They don't want freedom around them. They want followers. They want silence. And they'll press until you break unless you learn to discern. There comes a time when the truth doesn't matter to someone anymore. They speak with ease, but their words carry shadows. You start to notice how their stories never line up, how their promises never match their actions. And when they are caught, there is no pause, No guilt, just another story, another layer, another twist. They lie, not because they have to, but because they've grown comfortable with it. It's not a moment of weakness, it's a pattern. You see how they cover up, how they shift blame, how they avoid being honest, even when the truth would cost them nothing. It becomes a way of life. And when you bring it up, they laugh, or they deflect, or they attack, but never do they face it. You begin to realize that something else is behind it, because ordinary weakness still carries a sense of conscience. But here, there is none. No remorse, no reflection, no need to make things right. Their words are tools, not vessels of meaning. They use them to shape what they want, to move people like pieces on a board. And even when their lies hurt others, they keep going. There's no sign of regret, only strategy, only protection of self. And the deeper you look, the more you see. This isn't just poor character. It's a spiritual problem. A lying spirit doesn't care about facts. It doesn't care about people. It only cares about control, confusion, and destruction. It poisons trust. It breaks bonds. It creates cycles of doubt and disappointment. And the one who carries it will often seem calm, even kind, until the truth threatens them. Then the mask slips, and what's left is not just dishonesty, it's darkness, crafted, placed, and rooted deep enough to deceive even those who know them well. Sometimes a person knows things they shouldn't. They speak with information that seems impossible to have learned naturally. They surprise you by naming details about your life that you never shared. They predict events that later happen exactly as they said. It feels strange at first, almost like a gift. But then you notice how this knowledge isn't used to help or uplift, but often to unsettle or control. There's no explanation for how they know these things, no logical source. It comes without effort, and sometimes without warning. Their words carry weight, but also unease. You watch closely and realize that their abilities do not bring peace or light. Instead, they often stir fear or confusion. They may perform signs or display powers that seem beyond natural limits, but these displays don't point to goodness. They point to something else, something hidden beneath the surface. It is knowledge not given by God, but taken from darker places. And while it might seem impressive, it is a warning. True power builds up. It doesn't tear down. True wisdom brings clarity. It doesn't cloud judgment. And true gifts flow with love, not fear. When you see this kind of supernatural knowledge or ability in someone, watch their heart and listen to the fruit it produces. If it leads to control, fear, or separation, it may be a sign that the source is not divine. Sometimes what looks like power is a mask for something much darker underneath. And that is when you must stay alert. There are times when sadness weighs heavy on a person's heart, but sometimes that sadness becomes a shadow that won't lift. It clings and drags them down deeper than usual. They seem lost in a place where hope feels far away. When depression stays for a long time, it's more than just an emotional struggle. Sometimes it is a spiritual burden. They talk about feeling empty, hopeless, or wanting to escape the pain forever. Thoughts of ending life come often, not as a moment of weakness, but as a persistent voice whispering that death is the only relief. You see how their eyes lose light, how their smiles fade quickly. They may isolate themselves, avoiding even those who care most. And when you try to reach out, you sense a wall, cold and distant. This kind of darkness is not always natural. It can be a weight that a spirit places on the soul, feeding despair and hopelessness. It pushes a person to the edge, trying to break their will. It wants silence. It wants surrender. When you encounter this, it is a call to compassion, prayer, and careful watchfulness, because beneath the pain, may lie a presence that thrives on sorrow and tries to steal life itself. Sometimes words come out that no one understands, sounds that don't belong to any known language flowing from lips as if they carry a hidden meaning. It can be sudden or repeated. At times it seems like a strange gift, other times it's disturbing. The person may not even realize what they are saying. It doesn't feel natural. The sounds are harsh or strange. They may seem disconnected from the person's usual speech. When this happens, it's often a sign of something beyond the ordinary. Speaking in unknown languages can open a door to a spiritual world not meant for us. It can be a voice for something hidden, a channel for spirits that do not bring peace. It unsettles those around them and leaves an uncomfortable silence afterward. This is not a language of prayer or praise. It is different. It can feel dark and heavy, as if something else is speaking through the person. It may be confusing or frightening to witness. And while some may try to explain it as just spiritual gifts, discernment is necessary. Not every unknown language is from a holy place. Some come from spirits that seek to confuse, deceive, or control. When you hear it, watch carefully. Listen beyond the words, because what you are hearing may not be from the person, but from something else using them as a voice. There are nights when sleep does not bring rest. Instead, it becomes a battlefield. The person wakes suddenly, heart pounding, unable to move, their eyes wide open, trapped in their own body. Sometimes they see shadows pressing down or feel an unseen weight crushing them. These moments happen again and again, night after night. They speak of fear that does not fade with morning light. Night terrors and sleep paralysis are more than bad dreams. They are experiences that leave the soul shaken. It's as if something unseen is reaching through the darkness to grip their spirit. The fear is deep and real, not imagined. Those who face this often feel helpless, isolated, and exhausted. They avoid sleeping or dread the night. Sometimes these attacks come with strange sounds, whispers, or feelings of a presence in the room. It's a silent struggle that few understand. And while medicine may offer some answers, there is often a spiritual weight behind it. A spirit that attacks in the quiet hours, seeking to steal peace and rest. This darkness thrives in silence and isolation. It wants to keep the person trapped in fear. Watching over someone who suffers like this requires patience and prayer. It calls for gentle support and spiritual protection because the night can be a time of great vulnerability, and those shadows can hold more than just dreams. Sometimes people become fascinated with things that pull them away from light. They talk often about death, about shadows, about things hidden in darkness. It might start as curiosity, but it grows into an obsession. They collect symbols, read strange books, watch unsettling shows. Their conversations turn to spirits, curses, and powers beyond what is good. You notice how they avoid the daylight, how they seem drawn to places that feel cold or heavy. This fascination isn't harmless. It changes the way they see the world and the people around them. It creates a barrier between them and those who walk in the light. What seems like an interest becomes a door to a world that feeds on pain and fear. The occult is not just stories or myths. It is a real power that can take hold of a soul. And the more someone opens themselves to it, the more they invite things that bring darkness, confusion, and distance from God. You watch how their heart grows colder, how their joy fades. Their words carry a weight you can't explain. And sometimes you see them caught in things they cannot control. This obsession is a warning. It shows that something else is at work, quietly shaping their path. And it is a call to stand firm in truth, in light, and in prayer. You notice how they seem distant, even when people around them are hurting. They listen, but do not respond with feeling. Their eyes don't soften. Their voice remains flat. When someone shares pain or joy, they stay apart, untouched. It's not shyness or distraction. It's like an invisible wall surrounds their heart. They do not offer comfort, and they rarely understand what others feel. When kindness is shown, they might reject it or respond with silence. Their relationships feel one-sided, cold. You wonder if they care at all. This absence of empathy is not natural. It goes beyond personality. It points to a deep disconnect inside. Something has hardened them, shutting out the warmth of connection. It's like they carry a shadow in their soul, one that resists love and compassion. When people are close, this coldness pushes them away. It leaves loneliness behind, even in crowded rooms. And often that distance is a sign that a spirit may be working quietly, dulling the heart and closing the door to others. It is not an easy thing to see or say, but it is real. A soul trapped in such coldness needs prayer and care. Because without warmth, the spirit cannot grow and healing cannot begin. Sometimes words come out sharp, cutting through the quiet with disrespect. They mock what others hold sacred. They laugh at prayer, sneer at worship, and twist the names of God into jokes. It's not just careless talk, it feels like an attack. The way they speak shows no reverence, no respect. They push boundaries, testing limits with harsh words. It can happen in a moment of anger or slowly, becoming a habit. Their speech leaves a sting in the air, a tension that doesn't fade. It unsettles those who hear it, especially those who believe. This kind of mockery is more than rebellion. It reveals a heart that is distant from God, a spirit that wants to break what is holy. Sometimes it is spoken with a smile, other times with bitterness, but the effect is the same. It hardens the soul. It invites darkness closer. Words carry power, and when they are used to blaspheme, they open doors to things that thrive on disrespect and pride. It is a sign that something inside resists the light. It resists truth. And it is a call to watch, to pray, and to stand firm in faith, because words spoken in blasphemy are not just empty sounds, they are battles in the unseen world. There are moments when what we see is only the surface. Behind familiar faces and daily smiles, there may be struggles we cannot easily understand. The signs of something darker are often quiet, subtle, and easily overlooked. Yet recognizing them is important, not to judge, but to protect and to seek wisdom. The presence of anger without cause, hatred toward what is good, resistance to prayer, controlling ways, dishonesty, unusual knowledge, deep despair, strange speech, restless nights, fascination with darkness, coldness of heart, and words that wound the sacred. All these point to realities beyond the natural. They remind us that the unseen world is at work, sometimes through people we love. The call is to be attentive, to listen quietly, and to hold space for truth and healing. To walk gently but wisely, knowing that awareness is the first step toward freedom. Thank you for spending this time in reflection. May the understanding you have gained guide you in your journey and bring clarity to the moments that once felt uncertain. Let us continue to seek light and peace, quietly watching over one another with care and respect.